Alright everyone, it's time for more strategic suggestions with Styx Hexenhammer, talking about the Prodowners, as I've begun to call them. Basically people who don't have a sense of humor, so they're very upfront about literally every microscopic aspect of their political and social belief system, because they don't want to offend anyone, and they're easily offended too. And it's almost like projection. Like, people, you don't actually need to put your fucking pronouns in your Twitter bio, so to speak. But if you get easily offended because you spent way too much time on Tumblr, back when that was still a thing, and amazingly it still exists. I'm not sure how they haven't gone bankrupt at this point and sold off the domain for 10 cents, but whatever, we'll get past that for the moment. That's another funnier video. But when you feel that way, I think you tend to project on other people as well. And really the only way to deal with people like this, and basically it's the same thing as the pearl clutchers of the 80s, or the scared soccer moms of the 60s, or any of these other groups of morons throughout time. It's just a different form. It's more digital now. The best way to deal with it is ridicule. Constant, non-stop satire. Why do you think that comedians and satirists and stuff are the first to get censored in every wave of censorship? And they are. People who are being facetious are far more effective because humor is a very effective linguistic strategy. Things that are snappy one-liners, easily remembered, that had quips that take a little bit of sarcastic intelligence and pump it full of steroids. These sorts of things, and monikers like, when I use the term legacy media or prodowner, something that's terse and easily remembered, and sometimes satirical in nature and funny, tends to be more linguistically effective. What I would say is that people who feel the need to list their pronouns on their bio, basically you've got two groups of people you're talking about. The easily offended, that genuinely they're cringy and pathetic. And people that are just doing it for show. They're doing it for either clout, or maybe they're just in a crowd of people that tend to do that, so they just go along with it. Well, forming a dipole to this obviously isn't going to work, because then, when you form a dichotomy, on us versus them, it actually enforces both sides, turns them into an echo chamber. But just general lambasting and satire without any particular further political intrusion, simply saying, well, basically you're pathetic. My pronouns are attack helicopter. You haven't formed a dipole, you're just ridiculing a person. Very effective. Why do you think that they still go crazy when you say that that you identify as an attack helicopter and your pronoun is Chinook? Well, because it's very effective, and it's also hilarious, because it basically is the same as what they're doing. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. You're essentially revealing, for how stupid it is, what they are saying, and their belief systems at least openly stated, whether they're deeply held and authentic, or whether they're just keeping up appearances and keeping up with the Joneses. It's effective. Also, I would point out, over the last few years, it went from a handful of cringy people would have he, him in their bio, to now the point where it's become a living meme just on Twitter. I'm not even referring to other sites yet. This happens on YouTube frequently. This happens basically everywhere, certainly Facebook, although I no longer actively use that because the site fucking sucks, because Zuckerberg isn't even a human being. He's a Gen 2.5 failed synth experiment. He's like if Nick Valentine weren't cool. Literally looks like the skin texture for the Gen 2s in Fallout. I'm not lying. If you never played it, fucking do the comparison yourself. I'm convinced that dude is a cyborg. Have you noticed, though, that the amount of cringe over time has also increased? Like a person that a couple of years ago, they would just say, well, I identify as they and zir and stuff. Okay, well, it's cringe. It's certainly something to ridicule and satirize, but now they've got like 10 fucking lines. Marxist, hashtag BLM, Black Power Fist, rainbow emoji. It's just like a never-ending, self-satirizing, cringy screed. It's almost like... And this is, I think, because of in-group competition, competing to be more and more woke, over the purity spiral, you could call it. I think this it's funny because these people have morphed into the more hyperbolic caricature about which the initial cringy group was made. Initially, it was just they were doing pronouns. But people would say, oh, ha, 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 pronouns, misogyny, rainbow, rainbow, and they'd be very hyperbolic. Like they would create a caricature of a leftist as being a person that's completely warped beyond all recall to the point where everything offends them. But over the subsequent couple of years, the people that weren't even acting in that hyperbolic manner have gotten to that point, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of thing. It can be difficult in some cases to even create a hyperbolic caricature of leftists at this point, because some of them fulfill every possible hyperbolic caricature. They are literally involved with every aspect of identity politics and cringiness, to the point where really just saying what they actually say, it goes beyond any satire you can make. Literally just listening to them in their own words and seeing their own actions, like a Trigglypuff or something like that, is so funny that there's no way to make jokes about it in some cases. It's like they've become like the monster that they were characterized as initially when they had some semblance of sanity left. I just find it fascinating. I thought that I would rant about the subject. Long story short, though, too long didn't read, definitely ridicule people who act like that. If someone is acting like a movie character, and totally theatrical and shit usually, and being all fucked up, it's good to make jokes about them, and they will get offended. And that's when you don't even bother debating them, just laugh and shrug it off. That pisses them off 10,000 times more. Trust me, when you laugh at these people and then you roll their eyes at their response and ignore them, they're seething the entire time. They may not say it, but inside they're broken. They're shitter shattered. That's about all. Peace out.